Hey guys, what's up? My name is Anthony, and welcome to another edition of B&A Sports Talk. And today, I want to run through possible guys that could join us for offensive coordinator. And yes, I'm only mentioning guys because I don't think we're going to hire a female offensive coordinator. Sorry, feminists out there. But anyway, so Joe Judge has a really important responsibility here, bringing in an offensive coordinator who could facilitate the development of Daniel Jones. And this person, ideally, would have to take in a large responsibility because they're in control of everything. They're pretty much like Pat Shurmur was last year. They're in control of the entire offense. And yeah, so let's start breaking down about who could potentially be the offensive coordinator for the Giants. And if I missed anybody, make sure to let me know in the comment section down below. And yeah, let's just begin. Obviously, right now, Mike Shula is our offensive coordinator. I'm not sure what he does. I try to do some research. What does he do? I think Pat Shurmur had a lot of control over Daniel Jones. Mike Shula was kind of just there. He's had some experience in this league with Carolina, with Tampa Bay. He's coached since pretty much his first year of playing football. He played football. He got drafted by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I want to say, in 1986. He played 1 year, and then straight out of the bat, he was an offensive coach. He's been in the league for a while. The Shulas, they're a staple. They're not quite football royalty, but they're the next thing closest to it. I think that we're going to end up firing Mike Shula because I think Joe Judge is going to want a new regime to come in, his guys. And I've heard some rumors about Eli Manning potentially being a backup quarterback next year with the Giants, or potentially filling a office spot on this team like an assistant quarterback's coach. I don't know what the exact role would be, but yeah, I think that's a good idea. I don't think he's going to be a candidate for offensive coordinator, even though he's smart. Guys like Kellen Moore and guys like Sean McVay, they were backup quarterbacks their entire career. I don't really know a really good quarterback that ended up being a smart offensive coordinator, and plus, I think it'll be a little bit awkward with him and Daniel Jones. So any hopes of Eli Manning being the offensive coordinator, I think are dead. Okay, so the first coach that I really want to highlight today is Jay Gruden. Now, in the beginning, I was pessimistic about it. Then, as I did more and more research, I think that Jay Gruden may be the perfect fit for the Giants. And let me explain why. So, number one, he loved Daniel Jones coming out of the draft. There's stories that came out that said the Redskins were divided. There's a house divided. The management, they wanted Dwayne Haskins, but the coaching staff really wanted Daniel Jones. And Jay Gruden wants Daniel Jones to be successful. He loves Daniel Jones. So he's going to put around the best talent for Daniel Jones and for Saquon Barkley, who, by the way, the Redskins used Adrian Peterson really well. He would want to bring in more running backs and make this really a running team. The Redskins had a great offense as well. I mean, they had that falling out with Trent Williams, but that was a management problem. That wasn't a Jay Gruden problem. I think that Jay Gruden is well tenured in this league. He's been a coach in the NFL since 2011. He started off with being the Bengals offensive coordinator with Andy Dalton and those playoff runs. That they didn't win a playoff game, but they went to the playoffs, I think, all those years. A couple years ago with Andy Dalton and stuff. Jay Gruden played a little bit in the NFL, but he was always like a backup. I don't even think he made it into the NFL. It was like AFL and that sort of thing, like the backup leagues. So he has been sitting back a lot and learning, but he's also done it a little bit. He's also on the practice squad, I believe, for a couple years in the NFL. So he sat back, learned. He knows the offense. Some negative drawbacks I can see is that he did get fired, so that means I think he gave up on the Redskins a little bit. So that's not the best look, but that's not really that much of a drawback. But he does play in the NFC East. He played in the NFC East. He's familiar with them, the Cowboys, Eagles. He's familiar with the Giants, so he knows all their personnel pretty much. Because he's had to game plan against it. So I think that's a plus. Experience in this league is great. There may be a case of too many personalities. Like with some teams, you don't want to bring an all-star coaching staff in a way. Like Jay Gruden, Joe Judge, and then Wade Phillips on defense. You kind of want to balance things out a little bit. But if Joe Judge really wants to be the head coach, I think he should really give Jay Gruden a look. Obviously, him and John Gruden are pretty good offensive minds in this league. It's like, who Jay Gruden, they only won like 1 or 2 divisions. But it's hard to win in the NFC East, especially with bad management. And Washington Redskins really did have that. They were the definition of mediocre, which is a cause for concern. But it would definitely be a step up from Mike Shula. Number 2, a name that I've heard around is Joe Brady, but it just came out that he intends to stay at LSU. Now let's pretend like he's not going to stay at LSU. What can he bring to this team? He was the offensive coordinator, or he was on the staff with Sean Payton. Obviously, a smart offensive mind in many people's eyes. He ran the LSU system where it's just like the spread offense with the wideouts, and that really made Joe Burrow successful this year. And I think that potentially you get some talent at wide receiver, it could work. But I'm not too crazy for Joe Brady in the NFL. It would be a big step up. I've heard rumors with him and Jay Gruden they were itching. They're really itching. That's something about Jay Gruden. They're really itching to coach in this league. Jay Gruden, I've heard rumors to like the Oakland Raiders with John Gruden, his brother. I've heard Carolina Panthers. He wants to be somewhere, and if I think New York is a general a good landing spot. Most likely, Joe Brady is going to stay in college football. He wants to develop his next guy. And I don't want to mention him too much because most likely he will be staying. So number 3, another coach that we could potentially bring in is just fired Jason Garrett. Same positives, I guess, with the NFC East. And same thing with he wasn't really known for the best leader, but he's known a little bit more for X's and O's. But I think Jay Gruden would be the better hire out of them too, because the thing that we criticized the Dallas Cowboys a lot about was they weren't really creative offensively, didn't really know how to use Zeke, and everything was kind of just stale. I don't think that's something to bring in with the Giants. You think the Giants are going to get excited, let's bring in Jason Garrett. He was one of those hotshot guys in the beginning, like Sean McVay. He backed up Troy Aikman for the Dallas Cowboys. I think we all know that, but I think he was so long tenured in the league, 10 years, coaching the same team. I think it's going to be kind of a dull hire. It doesn't really get Giants fans excited. I don't think it really get the players excited. Let's bring in Jason Garrett, known as the Clapper, who was never really good. Again, he was probably a top 3 or 4 hyped offensive coordinator. They were 3rd in net adjusted yards his first year, but I feel like as the years went on, he just didn't adapt, and it was kind of like Mike McCarthy in a way. It's just bleh. So I don't think the Giants should hire Jason Garrett, but it certainly is an option. Okay, next name I want to mention is Joe Lombardi, and if that name doesn't sound familiar, I have questions with you. It's the grandson of Vince Lombardi, and yeah, he hasn't really had a lot of experience that's good. A big concern about me is he was the Saints quarterback coach back in 2009. Then in 2014, he got hired to be the Lions offensive coordinator, and now he's the quarterback's coach again, which is concerning to me because he didn't really get promoted. We've seen guys get promoted too quickly, like Freddie Kitchens, and then all of a sudden die out. But we've seen guys that just never get promoted, and that's a white flag for me. A red flag for me. Joe Lombardi is working with the Saints, and I don't believe Sean Payton is grooming him to be the next brilliant offensive mind. I really don't. Anything that comes out of New Orleans, I have questions with, because I think Sean Payton's really prideful in his scheme. I think that Sean Payton was like, okay, you know what? I'm not going to teach anybody. We were going to have Taysom Hill here. That's his project. Teddy Bridgewater, Drew Brees. And plus with all of that, at quarterback's coach, you're working with a lot of different guys and skill sets, which can be useful. But none of those guys are like Daniel Jones. You have a running quarterback. Then you have a quarterback that, is conservative and doesn't want to lose you games and plays conservatively. And then you have Drew Brees, who can't throw it vertically down the field whatsoever. And you've worked with Drew Brees for so long, and that's a concern for me. There really is. I want a guy who has had valuable experience, yes, has worked under guys, but also a guy that's been working with guys with similar skill sets to Daniel Jones and would want to take a job and would right away be good with all this responsibility. Joe Judge is giving the offensive coordinator so much responsibility, and a guy like Joe Lombardi, who hasn't really had a lot of experience, that's concerning, where a lot of even responsibility is concerning to me. You could say he's he's adaptable. When Drew Brees went down, he had to figure out a way and help him out. I don't really buy that. I really don't. And yeah, so Joe Lombardi, he ranks down on my list. I don't really like him that much. Okay, so another coach that I want to mention potentially is Mike LaFleur, brother of Matt LaFleur. Matt LaFleur was pretty hyped last season. It's just out of nowhere, he got a job. Mike LaFleur is 31 years old, so he's very young. This is, I believe, his first stint in the NFL. I think he did work with the Falcons and Browns before, but this is his first major role. I'm not even sure if he's a quarterback's coach. He's like the route running coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers. So he hasn't really put a lot of responsibility on his shoulders. He is so inexperienced. You can potentially bring him in to potentially replace a guy like Jay Gruden eventually, but I don't really love this hire. I really don't. First of all, George Kittle is a physical tight end, so he's used to working with physical tight ends. He's used to the guy that can, both run block, pass block, and catch. So he's very versatile. We don't have a guy like that. And trading Evan Ingram is not really that smart of an idea because we have so many other holes in our team. Let's try to create a solid rock with Evan Ingram. But if we can get a second-round pick, I wouldn't mind. Also, Mike LaFleur, his brother Matt LaFleur isn't really that outstanding either. They're not quite the Gruden brothers in a way. And even the Gruden brothers aren't really that impressive by themselves. So I'm not too sure about anything with this. He's very young, and he'll be asked to do a lot and filling in the role with Daniel Jones. What I do like is that he's had to work with Jimmy Garoppolo, a similar talent to Daniel Jones. They're both somewhat mobile. They could, in the RPO game, they're fairly active in it. They also have similar situations with their contracts. Both teams are committing to that quarterback. It's not like, the quarterback may leave, may stay. It's going to be a stable situation. But the last thing, the kind of like the knife in the chest, is Saquon Barkley. I'm not too sure if he's going to be able to use him that well. They don't really have a guy like that in San Francisco. They have multiple running backs that they like to use, filter in and out. I'm not too sure if he has experience with a talent like Saquon Barkley. I'm not too sure if he's going to be able to develop them that well. And finally, Chad O'Shea, I want to mention. He's bottom on my list, but I want to mention him since he has experience in the Bill Belichick coaching tree. I believe he was the offensive coordinator there, or a pretty high-ranked coach for the Patriots. And when Brian Flores got hired to Miami, he also followed Brian Flores, and he got fired. He got fired too, by the way. Brian Flores, they went 5-11. They exceeded expectations. Like, oh yeah, no, you're leaving here. So he didn't trust, because they were going to bring a new quarterback in, and he didn't trust O'Shea to work with a young quarterback. So that's a red flag right there. And we know Brian Flores, he means business, kind of like Joe Judge. So Joe Judge is going to look at that and be like, oh, yeah, we probably shouldn't bring him in. He hasn't really had to work with a guy like Daniel Jones before. He has had to work with Tom Brady, who's immobile, so it means quick developing routes. That means not a lot of RPOs, not really a lot of creative stuff as far as spreading the field down vertically. And that's a huge concern for me. We're going to want to be creative offensively. He may be just old, and it feels old to me. And hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. If you did, make sure to give it a like rating. Let me know your guys' rankings in the comment section down below, and if I missed anybody. I've heard some names like the Chiefs quarterbacks coach. I've heard the Cowboys quarterbacks coach, but again, those guys don't have a lot of experience. The guys that I've listed, I think, are the candidates that the Giants are going to look at hardest. My rankings would be number 1, Jay Gruden. Number 3, because it's such a big gap, I'd probably have Jason Garrett, honestly. Number 4, probably Joe Lombardi. 5, Mike LaFleur. I think that Jay Gruden has, again, a lot of leadership with this team, and I think it could work. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye, guys.